What's going on, gamers? It's your boy Diggs Gaming. Welcome back to Alphonse's Gaming News. And I got a lot of Microsoft stuff to talk about today. Don't get a lot of that, but we have a lot to talk about. And actually, we're going to start off with an update on the Activision-Blizzard deal. So, as we all know, all the countries around the world, they are investigating this deal, not just in the US, but all around. And we already talked about what happened in Brazil with some of the responses from the other video game companies. But the UK's Competition and Market Authority has completed their phase one investigation of the Activision Blizzard deal for Microsoft, and they might move into a phase two because of some concerns that they have with competition. And Microsoft had a set number to respond. I can't remember exactly. I think it was like a week, maybe less, maybe 48 hours. I'm not entirely sure. Do not quote me on this. But basically, they had to respond to the concerns they had. And what the concerns were, specifically, as always, it's Call of Duty. I mean, because of how big Call of Duty is. And, you know, a lot of people are really concerned that once Microsoft gets Activision, that basically they're just going to be able to dominate the market because of Call of Duty, because they'll have Call of Duty under their belt. And if they do make it exclusive, how are other video game companies going to be able to handle that? Specifically PlayStation or anybody else that decides to get into the console race. I mean, it does happen every now and then. And Microsoft and Phil Spencer specifically has continued to say this, that they are not going to at all make Call of Duty exclusive to Xbox at this time. At the time, they're going to continue their deals that they had, because you still have the deals with PlayStation with the marketing rights for the next two Call of Duty games. So this one and the one after that. And then you have Phil Spencer that said that they contacted PlayStation and, well, specifically Sony, and they said that even after the deals expired, they're still looking to have Call of Duty on other consoles. So all of that, it sounds good, but I think part of the issue is we heard the same thing with Bethesda. And basically, this is the same thing that Microsoft was saying when they bought Bethesda, that not all games are going to be made exclusive, that some may stay multi-platform. But from what we're seeing, it looks like every single game is going to be an Xbox exclusive, because we saw with both Redfall and Starfield that they are exclusive. And we've heard the rumors with the new Doom game that's supposedly in development, and Elder Scrolls 6, and maybe even Fallout 5, that all of those are going to be Xbox exclusive going forward. And now you have this concern. My response to this is, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. They told the FTC this. You cannot lie to the FTC, especially when it's something this big as Call of Duty. You can't lie to the FTC about this. They're going to get into a lot of trouble if they do. So I think for now, we're going to be fine with it. But also, because of how big Call of Duty is, why would you not continue to have it on multi-platform? It just doesn't make sense to me, because first and foremost, Microsoft is a business. And this is just not a good business decision, no matter how you shape it or whatever you want to say. It's just not a good business decision to make Call of Duty exclusive to Xbox only. It won't work. It's just not going to work as well as you keep it multi-platform, because again, of how many people play it and really where the player base is, because a lot of those players are going to be on PlayStation. And even when those deals are up and pretty much Microsoft can do whatever they want, it still wouldn't be a good idea. Because even when they decide to put it on Game Pass, because Phil Spencer has confirmed that Call of Duty and other Activision IPs are going to be on Game Pass once this deal closes, it still would not be a good business decision, because you're still going to have a lot of people playing on PlayStation, and not just there, on PC as well. It's just not going to be a good idea, and I just don't see it happening right now. Now, the only way I could see this happening is if Call of Duty starts to really drop in popularity. And we have seen a drop in popularity, specifically last year with Vanguard, did not do well. But as of right now, I just don't see it happening. Maybe it could happen down the line. But as of right now, because of how big it is, it's just not a good idea. And again, they were being so much trouble with the FTC if they decide to do that. So I just don't think it's a good idea because, again, it's just not a good business decision, along with some other Activision IPs like the Crash and Spyro IPs. That's not a good idea to put those on Xbox exclusive because those are still seen as PlayStation icons to this day. And the last thing I really want to talk about when it comes to this is I'm now more concerned about Xbox making stuff exclusive. I'm just worried about if they're going to be able to deliver on quality games because we have seen so many problems with Xbox's first party games for a while now. And yes, they've had some good games like Forza Horizon 5. Yes, that was a great game when it was released, but you look at their other IPs. I mean, we have not had another Gears game for a while, and after Gears 3, it just hasn't been as well developed as the others, as the earlier games were. And it's the same thing with Halo. Same thing with Halo. Halo Infinite right now is just not looking good. And I'm going to talk about that later. Just not looking good right now for Xbox first party games. So yeah, I'm just concerned for Xbox right now in delivering high quality games. And with them just putting everything on Game Pass day one, I mean, we do see it is leading to some issues with their games. I mean, we have seen it. And I'm really scared right now for Xbox. Hopefully they can turn it around, but they got to turn it around quickly. And speaking of Halo Infinite, we got an update on Season 3. Now, Season 3 has been pushed back to 2023, and that's disappointing in itself. But what's even more disappointing is that split screen / local co-op play has been canceled. That feature is not coming to Halo Infinite. And that is a big disappointment considering the fact that Halo basically made this a big feature with the original game. People just loved the local co-op play that Halo did with the split screen. I mean, gamers were really looking forward to seeing this in Halo Infinite. And the fact that it's not going to be there, I mean, that is extremely disappointing. And yeah, it's not a good look right now for Halo Infinite and for Xbox right now. It's just not good. And I got nothing else to say about it. Just nothing else. Moving on, Xbox is going to be at the Tokyo Game Show. And that's pretty interesting because Microsoft has always had a problem with Xbox in Japan. They never really found a big following with Japan, and that's really the one place that they have struggled more than anywhere else. But the fact they're going to be at the Tokyo Game Show, that's a good look for them, and can't wait to see what they show off. Moving on, PlayStation has acquired a new studio, and this one is Savage Games, a mobile studio that is the first studio to join PlayStation's mobile division. Now, on the surface, this doesn't look like the best news because why are you making this mobile division anyway? Why not just focus on what made you big in the first place, your single player games? What's with all these multiplayer? What's with all these live service games? What's with the mobile division? Well, it's not that they don't want to keep making single player games because Sony did ensure players that single player games are still a big part of the company. And we've seen that with the games that they have released for the PlayStation 5. I mean, you look at Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Spider-Man Miles Morales, you have Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine being made. You also have The Last of Us Part 1. You have God of War Ragnarok, Returnal, and a few other games that, again, are single-player games. And, yeah, they are still a big part of the company. But this is more because of the trend that video games are going towards. And as sad as it sounds, I mean, we are seeing a lot more live service games. Mobile games are really doing well. So it's not a bad thing for Sony to be doing this. They just have to do it right. And with Sony, they know how to do things right. They've had missteps, but they know what to do right. And mobile games are not always the worst thing in the world. As long as you are able to just avoid a lot of the problems that we've had with some mobile games, a lot of mobile games, not just some. As long as you can avoid those for the most part, they're going to be fine. Now, Savage Games itself, this is a new studio. They haven't released the game yet. And yeah, let's see what happens. Moving on, a new model for the PlayStation 5 has been released in Australia. And what's interesting about this is, well, the first new model, now this is the same thing, it's the same thing that it looks like a PlayStation 5. It's nothing, there's nothing different about it. Well, from the outside. But the last remodel that they did, they were able to drop some of the weight, and now they were able to drop more of the weight. And now this and the PlayStation 5 disc model, this new disc model, weighs the same as the launch digital edition. That's pretty interesting. And yeah, the fact they were able to cut the weight, and because it is a pretty heavy console, I will admit it can be pretty heavy, but the fact they were able to drop even more of that weight, it's going to be interesting to see what they did to drop more of the weight, because people are going to break this down. But it's also not a good look right now, and I will admit this because PlayStation just rose the price of the PlayStation 5 in every place except for the US. This is just not a good look because you just cut more of the weight for your PlayStation 5 and yet you raise the price. It's just not a good look. And I'm going to admit this, they better turn this around quickly because this is going to hold over them for a while if they can't turn this around quickly. Now, I'm still on the belief that this is going to be a short-term thing, that it's not going to stay this price for very long. And I hope I'm right, because if they raise it again, or if it stays like this for a while, I mean, they are really, really going to lose some people. Moving on, both Sony and Tencent bought minority shares in From Software. So Sony bought, I believe it was a 14% share of From Software. Tencent bought a 16% share of From Software. And the majority owner of From Software, it's still the same as it was before. And this is pretty interesting because for Sony, this goes as a shock to no one. And for Tencent, this should be a surprise to no one if you understand the company's history. So for Tencent, I mean, they've been buying up some studios for a few years now. So I'm not really shocked by this, that they just decided to buy a minority of From Software. But with Sony, I mean, they've had a partnership with From Software for a long time now. And I'm not just talking about Demon Souls. I mean, this goes back to the PlayStation 1 era. I mean, From Software actually released some games on the PlayStation 1, the Kingsfield series, for those of you that did not know that. But I mean, Sony is very familiar with From Software. It's not a shock. And the fact that this happened, it definitely does not shock me. And I'm interested to see if this does anything with From Software. Moving on, Quantic Dream has been acquired by Netties. Now, Netties, it's a Chinese company. It's one of the biggest internet companies in the world. And they're familiar with the video game scene. And this is actually, Quantic Dream is actually the first European studio for Netties. Now, Quantic Dream, we know them from Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and Detroit Become Human. They've had some pretty good releases in the video game market, and now they have been acquired by Netties. So we'll see what happens there. See what happens. Moving on, there is a new Mafia game that is being in development by Hainer 13. And I know it's put a smile on a lot of people's faces because a lot of people have been wanting for a new Mafia game, and we just got it announced. Now, we're still years away from it, but the fact that a new Mafia game is in development, that is just terrific to hear, because Mafia has had a pretty good following over the years. I mean, the Mafia series has released some pretty good games, and I know a lot of people are going to be happy when they start to really see this game. And I don't know how long it's going to be before we actually start to see anything from it. Again, it's going to be years before we get this game. But the fact that we know that a game is in development, it's a really good thing to see. Moving on, Konami has confirmed that they are going to be at the Tokyo Game Show as well, and that they are going to announce a new game from a beloved series. The catch is it's not going to be Castlevania, Silent Hill, or Metal Gear. I'm not entirely sure what this new game could be from, because I'm not entirely sure on Konami's IPs at this point. But the fact that we're getting a new game from Konami is big on its own because Konami has not done well lately with the video game market and with their IPs as a whole. I mean, we all know about Metal Gear Survive. We all remember that. And Silent Hill, they've had problems with Silent Hill for a while. And even Castlevania, they've had some issues there. So the fact that they're making a new game and it's going to be from one of their IPs, that's pretty good to hear. And hopefully the game turns out to be good. Moving on, Assassin's Creed Mirage. That is the next Assassin's Creed game. Now, this is pretty interesting because the game got leaked. Like we saw an image with Assassin's Creed Mirage, and it looked like a DLC mission. I believe it was the 40 Thieves or something like that. It something 40 Thieves. I can't remember exactly what it said. But yeah, this is pretty interesting. And then it got confirmed by Ubisoft that this is going to be the next game and that they are going to show it off later this week. And from some of the things that we heard, it looks like they're going back to the roots from the earlier Assassin's Creed games, which, okay, I can definitely get behind that. I really do like the Assassin's Creed game, particularly the original ones, and particularly the Ezio games. And that really is good to hear. And we're just going to have to wait to see just what this game is going to look like. Can't wait to see it shown off. And the last thing I want to talk about is The Last of Us Part 1. So The Last of Us Part 1 came out, and to no one's surprise, the reviews were absolutely amazing. This game, I mean, nobody's really shocked. Everybody was just knew this game was going to get great reviews, even if they didn't want to admit it. Now, there's still the issue of, is it worth the $70? And I'm just going to say this, that's entirely up to you. If you are okay paying $70 for it, definitely go and get it for $70. If you want to wait for a sale, wait for a sale. It's not going to take that long for it to go on sale. This is not a Nintendo first party game. It will go on sale rather quickly. But one thing I do want to talk about with that is there were some reviewers that actually put the price and dropped it because it was a $70 game. And I just have to say that is totally unfair. You do not judge a game based off its price. You judge a game based off its gameplay, its design, its characters, everything that does not deal with price. You have to put that aside and just judge it for what it is. And for what The Last of Us Part 1 is, it's a great game, a great update to the first game, and definitely looks like the definitive edition of the first game. Look, for The Last of Us Part 1, if you want to buy it right now, go right ahead. If you want to wait for it to drop in price, go ahead. That's entirely up to you. But just know that people are loving this game. And it comes out as shock to no one. And I'm just going to say this. The game does look absolutely gorgeous. Naughty Dog did a great job with this. They really did. All right, guys. That was the gaming news for today. I am Diggs Gaming, and I will see you guys next time.